Hi, my name is Joani Matranga, and I've been in the Valley for a little over 30 years, and I've worked mostly in energy for CORE and the Governor's Energy Office, trying to promote renewable energy and energy efficiency. And I think in the last 10 years, I've pretty much been dealing with a lot of grief around climate change and that we haven't been able to do enough to help us, to help our land and our community here. We did a lot, but we didn't do enough because our climate is changing. And so I was watching Netflix one night, and a documentary I was watching is called Kiss the Ground. And it was the first time that I really ever had any hope that there might be something that we could do. The USDA was starting to talk about regenerating the soil. There had been large bioregional regeneration projects being done in other parts of the world. And I decided, that maybe there was something I could do and or something we could do. And so I was just happened to come upon a presentation that Joe Brewer was doing through Rita's work. Rita Marsh brought Joe Brewer here, and through that, I've started to become very convinced that this is a way forward for our community and for us to implement some level of quantum leap of change that we need to make in order to affect climate change here locally. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about bioregional regeneration. So there's some emerging new cooperative models for regenerating the earth and its ecology, and it's really based on local action. And the two that we have is Earth Regenerators. I mean, there's probably others. And that was Joe Brewer, and I'll tell you about Joe a lot more in detail. And he's in Barichara, and he's talking about creating 1,000 bioregions by 2030. And the other organization is Commonland Foundation, and they're working globally. And the question is, with the Roaring Fork Valley watershed, is this a type of process that can fill a need here? And we have 376,000 hectares in our watershed. So Joe Brewer is based in Barichara, Colombia. He arrived there in 2019, and he found a degraded landscape. They had less water and it was poor quality. They had deforestation. There were some siloed environmental projects that were going on, but there was little to no cooperation or collaboration. So since 2020, he's been able to develop a common vision with a group. He built trust in a specific group of people that had been working, were like-minded people. And they started working with a process to develop a common vision, which they've adopted for reforestation, rewatering the rivers and tributaries, and building a regenerative economy. And he's funded projects, and he's identified the key to his success has been prosocial and developing relationships. And prosocial allows for re-entry of others. So as they expand out into the community more and more, other people can come into the group. And I think this is really important because the last time Carbondale tried to do something collectively among a group of people, we didn't have a process in order to make us jointly collaborate. And so prosocial is really key, and we'll talk about that a little more later. So this is Joe's tree, essentially my artwork, which is not very good, but this describes the work of a bioregion. And the idea is to weave stories and local projects into a common vision, and then to bring resources and technical expertise into the bioregion, funding and pooling of efforts with web and government grants and things like that, just trying to get money to make things happen and to hold the field for integration. Now, I know that there's a lot of work being done already in the Valley, and the question is, how can this all meld together, or does it warrant melding it together, and what kind of issue might be involved with that? So the Earth Regenerators, so Joe came to visit us because he's trying to create these 1,000 bioregions by 2030, and each bioregion acts locally, but they're networks. So Joe's been out traveling in the formative stage for new bioregions, and Colorado was one of the first places he came. He went to the Great Lakes in Canada, New York, and the Sahelish Sea is the next place to visit. And the idea is by networking the bioregions, you have shared learning and resources. And right now they're networked via blogs, Zoom meetings, website resources, and podcasts. The Commonland Foundation is the other organization that I wanted to talk about a little bit. And they've started in 2013, and they're based in the Netherlands. They've got 20 projects globally. This map shows you where some of them are located. And they're working with large landscapes, 1 million hectares. At least, I found a lot of examples, but they say at least 100,000 hectares is kind of the project size that you want in terms of doing this kind of bioregional work. And their vision is to bring people together to restore the landscapes, to restore our Earth. And the people they're talking about are the people that are based in the land, the local farmers, the conservationists, the government, the indigenous people, and entrepreneurs. And holistically, they believe that anyone can work with nature and their local community to restore a landscape at scale. And they have these economic drivers for ecology that they talk about. And one of them is called the ROI, which is the return on inspiration. People need hope that there's a way to regenerate their environment. So out of their list of projects, I picked 2 that I wanted to talk about. They're bio-based, business-based opportunities for solutions. And one of them is in Andalusia and the other's in Southwest Australia. And they have there's similar things going on. They're facing common problems of climate change, less water, more frequent catastrophic events. The land's tired, overused, and native plants and ecosystems are displaced. In Andalusia alone, there are 250 farmers actively implementing regenerative practices, and they're supporting 600 businesses in the transition. In Southwest Australia, they're also cooperatively developing new business cases, products and brands. How do they brand their products so that they can sell it in the market for maybe a premium, get better quality? And this way they're generating more economy and more wealth, and so they can support regenerative practices. Another concept that they're looking at is carbon projects as a way of funding the regeneration work that has to be done, because this is very costly. And the idea is to restore natural corridors for park connections so that they can get more wildlife coordination and movement in the community. Now, Commonland has a systematic approach for building sustainable landscapes. Their idea is that you have to look at a 20-year at least time frame, that you have to have a large-scale integrated landscape management activities with all stakeholders. But they have a process. Again, it's vision, collaboration, and using prosocial. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So the areas that they look at, they have 3 zones that they identify. One is natural zone, which for us would be wilderness and public lands. And then they have the economic zone, which is strictly residential and commercial. And then you have a combined zone, which is at the interface, and sometimes in our valley, it's right in the middle for the river. And then again, they have these 4 returns, because they know they have to return not only money to the community, but also to the natural ecosystem and to the businesses that are happening. So in this transformative change, there's a process that and I've tried to pick out what I thought were key elements of this process. And they, they have a whole description for this, but essentially you have to establish a landscape partnership as a long-term endeavor. And you create a common vision, and the people are unified in this common vision for the landscape. And it's grounded and owned by the people in the landscape. And skeptics will join as they see more and more people getting involved in the landscape partnership. And through the whole process, you have to continue to build trust and relationships with people. And so you first start with like-minded people and expand to all stakeholders. And you create partnerships to drive and finance the restoration. And businesses and finance recognize the benefits of the ecosystem regeneration. Why is this important to our community? And they recognize it and accept it. And then the governments are on board with cooperative action and policy. Now, for both the Commonland and for the Earth Regenerators, Prosocial has been key to having better outcomes. And Prosocial is based on Eleanor Ostrom's 8 core design principles to define the commons. And her process was recognized by the Nobel Prize, and she was given the Nobel Prize for Economics, the first woman to receive it, based on these core design principles. And so her idea is to use behavioral theory to improve our own behaviors and our group cohesiveness, build trust and relationships in order to have better outcomes. And I know this is really needed in our world today. So I think it's key to whatever work we're going to do in the future. And here we are in our beautiful valley. Thank you.